Oh, let me just 1 second. I'm going to make sure we all have chairs for everyone. We will have somebody come in and grab some of the chairs, but in the meantime, let's go ahead and get started. We have Dick Bauer back here, and he's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would all stand and remove your hats or any headpieces, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now I will turn it over to Commissioner Meal, who will be chairing the meeting.
I would now like to call to order the next meeting of the listening tour of the Independent Redistricting Commission. We'd like to remind you, the public, that COVID-19 is still prevalent. We ask that you follow the Arizona Department of Health guidelines. If you're not fully vaccinated, you should wear a mask in a public space. If you'd like to participate from home, each of these meetings is being streamed through WebEx. Please note that if you would like to make a public comment, you may do so by signing in with staff and filling out the public comment cards. If you haven't already done so, please fill out the Community of Interest survey. There's a QR code on signs at the sign-in desk and on the public comment cards that will direct you to the link. Please see a member of staff if you have any questions. And we'll discuss the Community of Interest survey in a moment in part of the presentation as to what that means. We have an American Sign Language interpreter joining us virtually, and we have interpreters and headsets available for those in attendance. We also have a transcriptionist who will be transcribing every meeting. Please speak slowly and clearly so we have a clear record of your input. Will the interpreters in attendance introduce themselves now?
Hello, my name is Tiffany Jones, and my team tonight is Tiana Sandoval.
Good afternoon. Is it working?
Good afternoon. My name is Leonor Estrella. I'm from Nogales, and I'll be the English to English translator interpreter. So if anybody needs any services, I'm sitting on the second row. Okay? Muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Leonor Estrella. Yo soy su intérprete. Si alguien necesita que el intérprete de inglés a español, por favor, véanme. Estoy sentada allá en la segunda línea. Estoy a sus órdenes. Thank you very much.
And learner. They're both on.
And at this time, we will introduce ourselves. I'm David Meal. I'm a Republican appointee to the commission, and I'm from Pima County, from Tucson.
I am Erica Newberg. I'm the independent chairwoman, and I live in Chandler, the East Valley of Maricopa County.
And we have two commissioners that are joining us virtually, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Good evening, everybody. I am Derek Watchman, and I'm the vice chairman of the commission. I am the Democratic appointee to the commission, and I come from Apache County up here in Winter Rock, Arizona. Good evening, everybody.
Okay, sorry. Hello, everyone. My name is Shireen Lerner. I am a representative from Maricopa County, and I'm one of the Democratic commissioners. Nice to see you all. Thank you for being here.
And we very much appreciate the attendance tonight. This is a great turnout, and we look forward to hearing your input to us. And now we will move to agenda item 2, a presentation of the process of redistricting. And first is a representative from our legal team.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brett Johnson with the law firm of Snell and Wilmer, and with me today is Sean Summers from the law firm of Ballard Spahr. We're co-counsel for the commission, and we're going to give you a little bit of a civics lesson of how we all got here. Okay, Mark? There we go. Okay, so the need for redistricting goes back to the founding of the country itself. I'm sure a lot of you might remember this from your civics class in grade school. But basically, the Constitution lays it out pretty well. There needs to be a reapportionment of the congressional lines every 10 years. When Arizona became a state, obviously followed the same model and made sure there was going to be a reapportionment according to the Arizona Constitution. So the history, obviously, 1912, Arizona becomes a state. And all the way through 2000, it was the Arizona legislature that redrew the lines for the state of Arizona. And up until that period of time, every state redrew their lines through the legislature. Okay? In 2000, the people of Arizona passed Proposition 106, which took it out of the hands of the legislature and created an independent redistricting commission. One of the main reasons for doing that was to try to avoid gerrymandering around political parties, but also have very set specific criteria, which we'll go over in a second. Basically, there's a little bit more information up there about the Constitution itself and when the commission has to be actually impaneled, which we have here today. So the Constitution requires basically at least, or it requires 5 different commissioners, no more than 2 from each party, and then those commissioners will then got together and appointed the chair. Okay, and so they've already did their introductions tonight, and we have 1 independent, 2 Democrats, and 2 Republicans making up the commission from a wide space of Arizona. Next. Here are the constitutional provisions, and this is the hardest part of doing the commission, is because it's a very, very strict laying out of the model as to what the commission can and cannot do. In particular, the first step is obviously, just like we just did the Pledge of Allegiance, we have to comply with the U.S. Constitution and what's called the Voting Rights Act. And that's ensuring that people are protected based off of their race and ethnicity, and that is one of the criteria. Separate is that each congressional and legislative district has to have equal population. For the congressional district, that's pretty strict. It has to be 1 for 1. 1 vote equals 1 vote, and then you can basically have 1 person depending on the numbers of how the districts line up. The legislative districts, there's a little bit of a wiggle room that the courts have recognized, that you can basically, to accommodate some of the other factors, you're able to have maybe a slightly more population in the legislative districts, but in reality, it's supposed to be equal, as close as possible to an equal division. The next criteria is obviously geographically compact and contiguous to the extent practical. And what that means is that you can't have islands in the middle of districts. They have to be connected and continuous. You can have one part of the district on the east side, then a break, and then the rest of the district on the west side. It just doesn't work that way. So you have to have a connection all the way through, and that's part of the drawing of the map's context. The next issue, which is what we're going to be talking about here tonight primarily, obviously public comment, please express anything you want, but we're talking about communities of interest, and Ivy's going to do a presentation in a minute of what some communities of interest are. But the community of interest is really in the eyes of the beholder. This is what makes us down here in Nogales, down in San Luis, Santa Cruz County, what makes you a community of interest, and what if you're currently with another county, why are you not a community of interest with somebody else or another part of the state that you've been paired with? Those are the kind of context from that perspective, and really important for you to get that information tonight. The next is obviously geographic features, city, town, and county boundaries, and then undivided census tracts. What that basically means is that to the extent possible, trying to keep counties together, trying to keep cities together, so long, though, that it does not impact those other 3 that we've already talked about. The last one is to the extent practical, and there's two caveats in this one. To the extent practical, competitive districts should be favored or to do so would create no significant detriment to the others. And that's called a competitive district, right? It's balanced, and basically you don't necessarily know who's going to win the election when the election starts, and everybody has a chance to be able to win it. Now, that is the last criteria, but it comes in a little bit less than the others because of the importance of what we're talking about tonight is communities of interest and keeping communities together. Here's the projected timeline. This is an ambitious projected timeline. We all think that we're going to be able to meet it, but there's going to be some latitude, quite honestly, because the U.S. Census Bureau, due to COVID-19, was delayed in getting us the data that is necessary for the commission to do its work. So this is the anticipated project timeline. We're on the listening tour, the first of the listening tours, to discuss the community of interest and anything else people want to talk about tonight. Then in the middle of August, actually they just announced that it's going to be 4 days earlier than anticipated. So the census data will be received and then processed, and then that will go into a grid map. What a grid map is that all of the congressional lines, all of the legislative district lines that you currently have are gone. They're wiped away. They cannot be used for consideration as part of the grid map, okay? Now, for purposes of being able to talk tonight about your community of interest, you might bring up your LD or your congressional district, so be it, because those are markers that as we know them today. But for the grid map, they're all going away, okay? After that, the commission has a very hard task. They take in all of the data that has been presented on our road tour so far about communities of interest. They also listen to other folks about competitiveness and some other expert testimony, and then come up with the draft maps. Those draft maps are put out for 30 days of public comment, where anybody in the public can come and give their presentation as to why those map lines should be different. In addition, it provides an opportunity for the legislature to give what's called a minority and majority report, kind of going a throwback to history that the legislature is involved in the process. Then hopefully there's a revised map in December of that time frame, and then in the beginning of January, we have new legislative districts and new congressional districts to tee off the election cycle for next year. Public involvement, I've talked about that through the entire presentation so far. Commission meetings are open to the public. We want to strongly encourage everybody to participate. So even your friends, family, neighbors, that they're not here tonight, there are multiple ways to participate. Even old school snail mail. If somebody wants to put together a map and it is in crayon, Mark over there can figure it out and put that as part of the record that the commissioners can consider, okay? There's a lot of different electronic options that are going to be discussed tonight too. Highly encourage you to make sure. Personally, I need to get my 14-year-old kid to figure out some of the technology. You all might have to do the same thing with your grandkids or your kids, but we want to make sure that you all have the opportunity to have input, not just about the communities of interest, which we're talking about primarily tonight, but all of the different factors. And again, there's multiple ways for you to participate. So please, not just give comments, but if you're able to also draw a map, and there's the mapping consultants are going to go over that in a bit, that's very helpful to the process itself, okay? I'm going to go off script just a second real quick. When you do testify tonight and you come up to the podium, please don't just consider who you don't want to be with, but also if you don't want to be with another community, what communities do you want to be in? Because remember, we have the equal population issue. Most likely, your community has to be with some other community. So please consider explaining not only who you might not want to be with, but who you want to be with, and then thoroughly explaining your communities of interest that Ivy is going to cover. And I think I'm turning it over to her now. Okay.
Thanks, Lori. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Flahan. I'm project manager on the mapping team. So today, part of my team, I have Ivy Beller-Skansky, who's a demographer for NDC, and sitting next to her is Parker Bradshaw, our coordinator for the project from the Timmins side. So what we want to do is talk to you about some of the empowerment tools that we have available for you to use today that are on the web available 24/7. The first is our socioeconomic report. It's an interactive website which has a bunch of demographic data, and we'll talk about it in the next slide. The other two mapping tools that we're going to talk about is the Community of Interest Survey, Hopefully you saw that when you first came in. There's QR codes. You can scan it with your phone and actually fill it out live here at the meeting if you want to. If you have filled out a community of interest already and you are going to publicly testify, I can bring it up on the screen if you let me know. So we can actually bring it up live so everybody can see it. The last one that we have is our redistricting system. It's currently being set up, and that'll allow you to draw and submit your own maps live in the system. So the socioeconomic report. On the right side, there's a screen capture of it. But what it is 14 different demographic points that you can view for the entire state of Arizona. There's an acronym up there that says CVAP, that is Citizen Voting Age Population. So you can go to the IRC's website today, click on the link, and you can look at this application and all the demographics on it. The second piece that we have is why we're here today, Community of Interest Survey. Again, this is on the web 24/7, available for you to use. One of the key things about the Community of Interest Survey is not only telling us what makes your community special, but there's also a map. So that will allow you to draw your own community of interest boundary. And that's critical because we can see exactly what you consider your community of interest, instead of us just trying to understand accurately exactly what you're testifying today. So if you haven't done that after the meeting, I encourage you to go fill out an online community of interest survey. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Ivy, who's going to talk to you about what is a community of interest.
Thank you, Mark. So, what is a community of interest? It is a geographic area of people who share a common story or connection. That connection can be common social interests, shared demographic characteristics, similar impacts from a legislative or congressional issue, or any other connection that leads people in a given area to believe they would benefit from being kept together, united in one legislative and/or congressional district. As you think about your community, think about the demographic points and the other data that is online that Mark has referred to, which says, think about your community. Do you have similar jobs? Do you rely on similar public services? Belong to the same neighborhood association? Are you impacted by a similar environmental regional concern? Is your community defined by regional land use issues, transit concerns, languages spoken, community celebrations or traditions, or other similar issues or characteristics? Any of these characteristics could define a community of interest. Now it's your turn. As they travel the state on this listening tour, the commissioners want to hear from you. What do you want the commissioners to consider as they draft and ultimately adopt their maps? How do you define your community of interest? Using the tools that Mark has described and in your testimony today, we want to hear two things. First, what brings your community of interest together? And secondly, what are your community's geographic boundaries? Remember, the commissioners can incorporate your community into their maps only if you let us know where your community is on the map. Thank you for being here today. Now I will turn this back over to the commission staff to begin taking your comments.
Before we move to agenda item 3, the public comments, staff will read the rules of the meeting.
Citizens may only speak when recognized by the chair or the presiding officer of the meeting if the chair is absent or has otherwise delegated hearing administration authority. In compliance with Arizona's open meeting law, speakers should confine their statements to the issue on the posted agenda, which is before the commission. Speakers are also requested to limit their comments to approximately 3 minutes. You may only use one card and speak on your own behalf. Additionally, speakers are required to follow proper decorum. Speakers must use appropriate language. Foul and/or abusive language will not be tolerated. Any speaker failing to follow proper decorum or any other guidelines may be asked to leave. Any breach of the peace or disruption of a commission public hearing may be the cause of report to law enforcement, arrest, and prosecution. If someone has expressed the same sentiment as you, you do not need to speak in order to have your comment recorded. As long as you have filled out the survey, your input will be received and considered by the commission. Everyone is welcome to speak should you choose to do so. Opposing viewpoints may be expressed by the citizens present. As a courtesy, citizens are reminded to address their comments to the chair and to the commission, and not to the audience present. Please show respect for all speakers and avoid personal comments. Remember, the commission needs to hear from all sides in order to make an informed decision. And at this time, we will start the public comment session. The first speaker is Melanie Norden-Pyle.
My name is Melanie Pyle. I'm a resident of Elgin, Arizona, and a current precinct committee woman in my community. My husband and I own and operate our small home business in Elgin and plan to retire and spend the rest of our lives there. I am here to provide firsthand information on my community and our interest in redistricting. My community, including Sonoyta, Canelo, Lochiel, Rain Valley, and Patagonia, share the same values and interest in life. We do not live in Tucson because we do not want or value a big city's fast-paced, crowded lifestyle. We are ranchers, farmers, miners, Border Patrol, Homeland Security, current and retired military retirees, and families. We have tourism, wineries, and various small home businesses, and we value our independent way of life. Our community has been under constant strain from different governmental bodies imposing urban city values and rules on rural communities without considering our values and way of life. There has been a significant defection from metropolitan cities over the last 6 years to our area. The current maps do not accurately represent this shift and do not appropriately represent our area whatsoever. Our community was having monthly meetings pre-COVID to figure out how we could escape the heavy hand of a system that didn't represent the vast majority of our community. We independently reached out to Cochise County. They appreciated us and recognized we had similar values and were more like them. They were open to our area joining them and promoting our lifestyle as an extension of Cochise County. My neighbors and I are split between Santa Cruz County and Cochise County. The commission that previously drew the precinct lines didn't account for our community's values or way of life. It focused on splitting us in half, driving down our population as a voting group, and dividing us as a community when voting on what is vitally important to its citizens, all while living down the street from each other. Our needs differ from Tucson's. We have real issues with the border crisis, not just the TV blips you see at 5 p.m. on the evening news. You see, we're just like Cochise County. We need better security and police along our border. Because the Border Patrol has closed both checkpoints in Sonoyta, we need to develop plans with other border towns to manage this crisis. It is a real humanitarian and dangerous health crisis now. It is not imaginary. Remember, our communities are the first step to the big cities. The Arizona state constitution must be followed this time. We can't keep disenfranchising and putting the lives of legal citizens of the state of Arizona at risk anymore. If we do, what does it say about the integrity and character of our state and our country? Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. The next speaker is Edward Delsey, followed by Connie Williams, followed by Deborah McEwen.
My name is Eduardo Delcy, 81 years of age, native Arizona, with roots in Morenci in Greenlee County, Florence in Pinal County, and home raised in Maricopa County. Home base is Chandler. Honorable Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to testify during this Santa Cruz County hearing this evening. In 2011, I had the opportunity to address the IRC during six separate sessions in Southern Arizona, in Santa Cruz, Pima, and Cochise counties. It was during these sessions that I was able to convince the IRC commissioners that Santa Cruz County warranted the opportunity and interest to be one independent district of positive minority votes. We did not care to be split with neighboring Cochise County by placing the eastern Santa Cruz County communities in that geographic region. Since Santa Cruz County's incorporation in 1899, even before the establishment of the state of Arizona in 1912, Santa Cruz County has embraced its connection with the Santa Cruz River Basin corridor because of its embracement of the international connection with Mexico, the cultural ties with its Hispanic Mexican origins, the economic ties with the international trade it commands, and the governmental ties with Pima County along the same corridor which they both share. The invaluable political ties with its minority vote base shared with the Tohono O'odham Native American nation to the west in Pima County, the historical cultural values of the Hispanic Mexican vote base along the Santa Cruz River Basin, connecting with Green Valley communities, Sahuarita, the South Tucson community in Pima County, only strengthens the value of the minority vote in our American political system. Our good Lord and Mother Nature have bestowed on Santa Cruz County the beautiful Huachuca Mountain Range, separating Santa Cruz County from Cochise County. The few vocal voices in the extreme right wing of the GOP element in the Elgin community region want to connect their community area with Cochise County. They should just pack up their belongings and their bigoted racism and just relocate to Cochise County. Santa Cruz County should remain as one whole political unit of the invaluable American minority vote of Hispanic and Native American origins. Do not take into consideration the thought of dividing eastern Santa Cruz County and placing it in a political jurisdiction.
Thank you, sir. That's time.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to present my statement to this honorable commission.
The next speaker is Connie Williams, followed by Deborah McEwen, followed by Milael Wright.
My name is Connie Williams. I live in Rio Rico, just a few miles north of Nogales. I'm a retired public school teacher, and since my retirement, I've been involved with a number of nonprofits in the area. The Anza Trail Coalition, Friends of the Santa Cruz River, Two Back Nature Center, to name a few. I'm also involved with Green Valley Groups, that's a Pima County place, who have Santa Cruz County members. Most, but not all of these folks are retired, so maybe we could call it a retiree COI. All of us attend the festivals, shop in the various retail businesses, and enjoy Santa Cruz County's wine. And we're all living along the Santa Cruz River corridor. This corridor COI was more or less kept together in a 2011 legislative district map, but it was split out of the congressional district map for reasons that I don't know why. But I'm here today to request that Santa Cruz County stay together as a county, and that north of here, the communities of Green Valley and Sahuarita be included following the lines that were used in the legislative district map. And I've got these two and I've circled it. So I can just...
Thank you. Our next two speakers will be Deborah McEwen, followed by either Mikhail Wright or Milail Wright, and then we're going to send it over to Bisbee.
Madam Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for making this hearing possible. I'm Deborah McEwen from Santa Cruz County. I live in zip code 85648 and I reside in Rio Rico. My LD2 traverses across the entire bottom of Santa Cruz County at the Mexican border and all the way up north into Tucson like a pie wedge. It goes all the way up into Tucson up to 22nd Street. It literally divides the town of Green Valley on the east and west side of I-19. Congressional District 3, yes, my congressional district, is still further west, where a mountain range, a national wildlife refuge, and a federal reservation isolate the town of Nogales from the rest of the congressional district. I would like to see a more sympathetic and accordant district drawn where our geographic, economic, and cultural needs are more in line with Cochise County in the east at LD 14 and CD 2. For example, I watch the water issues, the mining issues, ranching, and the produce and shipping industries. They're potential areas of economic development and growth. Too often I've seen the urban activists and special interest groups gab the ear of district representatives and literally obstruct the industries, adding to our declining economy. The rural southern border counties of Cochise and Santa Cruz are in need of cohesive plans that share ideas and imagine creative ways to solve our issues, to increase technical training and industrial work-study opportunities between our community colleges and these industries. Santa Cruz County needs to be able to manage and plan its own rural environmental issues in balanced coordination with our unique commerce along the border in combination with Cochise County. I've seen my neighbors' kids graduate from high school with little to no opportunity to continue education locally or to obtain technical skills, which will get them higher paying jobs in rural industries. Their only option is to go to urban institutions. I want these kids, and they want, to live in their hometowns with their families and friends and start long-term careers and raise their families from generations to come. Please consider keeping the agricultural counties of Santa Cruz in its entirety and Cochise together in one district for rural representation that will help solve our economic problems and give our children a better future. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mikhail Wright, and then we'll send it over to Bisbee. Am I saying that right? It's M-I-K-A-E-L, right? W-R-I-G-H-T?
Pardon me, ma'am. I was told I could speak for another person. I see by the rules I'm not able to. He's not here.
Oh, thank you. All right.
You would take off the list, Tim Faulkner.
Thank you, sir. We'll send it over to Bisbee now.
Members of the commission and also the listening audience out there on WebEx. I have 9 speakers this evening in Bisbee. We have a great group here. The first speaker is Elizabeth Tidal. The next speaker will be Yvonne Mayer. And following Yvonne is Robert Montgomery.
Face this way?
Yes, face
Okay.
the cameras.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your day today to do this. And thank you, commissioners, for allowing us time tonight to share what makes Cochise County amazing. My name is Elizabeth Tyndall, and I have lived in Sierra Vista for almost 6 years. It is one of the most welcoming places I've ever lived. I work for the University of Arizona, and my husband is federal law enforcement. Our daughter has attended public schools in Sierra Vista since preschool, and yesterday she began 4th grade of the school where I'm the PTO treasurer. My ask of the commission is to uphold fair and competitive maps mandated by law. Please be sure that communities in Cochise County that are underrepresented at all levels of government can elect officials that have their interests at heart. Arizona is a competitive state, and our congressional and legislative districts should be the same. A fair map would ensure voters in areas like Douglas and outside Wilcox are able to have a fair chance of electing representation from their neighborhoods, not just from the greater Sierra Vista area. Citizens of Cochise County get medical care and shop in Tucson. Our children go to Tucson for college, and many of us are employed by organizations in Tucson. Young families leaving our area for work go to Tucson. Davis-Monthan Air Force Base and Fort Huachuca employ and support many of our families, creating a strong community of interest that deserves responsive representation. The ties between our border region and Tucson are made strong by family, military, and business ties. Cochise County is a very diverse community with people making it home from all around the world. And we share more in common with Southeast Arizona and the I-10 corridor than other regions of Arizona. I hope that our future representation can reflect the amazing citizens we have here in Cochise County. Thank you very much.
Yvonne Myers.
Thank you. I'm Yvonne Mayer, a resident of Hereford. We are a rural district, including all of Cochise, Graham County, part of Greenlee, and rural Pima. This area represents a strong community of interest. Our district encompasses an agricultural base, including ranching, wineries, pecan orchards, and dairy. We're home to Fort Huachuca and defense and aerospace industries. Our climate and elevation provide a healthy living environment for retirees, as well as providing outdoor sports and tourism. Our cities and towns are small, with neighbors we know. Cochise County has 370 miles of international border with Mexico. Local law enforcement guards this border well, providing safe communities. Our crime rate is low. We are satisfied with the current community of interest, the compact and contiguous nature of our district, the dividing lines, and the safety of our communities. Thank you.
Robert Montgomery.
I am Robert Montgomery. Good day, Commissioners. I live in Palominas, a rural area just on the Mexican border between Bisbee and Sierra Vista. I've been there for more than 30 years and in Cochise County for 40 plus years, and feel I know something about the rural community. I am on the serve on the Fire District Board in Palominas as the chairman of the board. Currently, I am also the chairman for the Cochise County Republican Party. And once a month, I serve on the Cochise County Planning and Zoning Commission in this very room. So we do review all of the activities regarding permits and business activities within the county. Legislative District 14 is a rural district, has always been a rural district. We live here because we like it that way. Excuse me. And we have a common interest with Graham and Greenlee County in many respects, but primarily our border community is rural, and it is that way intentionally. Our districts includes agriculture, ranches, farms, wineries up in the Wilcox area, and other natural resources, including mining. We have national defense, as you know, over in Fort Huachuca, and aerospace industries around the county. And we like to keep it that way as well. We have small to medium-sized cities and towns, as well as small to medium-sized school districts. We have community colleges and a satellite campus of a major university. Our district composes mostly small businesses. I have been a small business owner here. So many small businesses are the backbone of our district. We do not have and never have had any tribal reservations in our district. and their interests are specific to them, different from our own, and they are considered sovereign to themselves. That is also something we would hope to keep. We do not have casinos or gaming here, as you know. It is a safety issue that we are concerned with here, as always, being on the border, which I can see from my kitchen window. And our fire district borders the entire border fence along Palominas. And we see that there is no reason to change things. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. Thank you. I could have gone on.
The next speaker is Inga McCord. Tom Crosby is following Inga, and Tamara Birch.
Hello, my name is Inga McCord. I am a resident of Hereford, Arizona, and have been for 35 plus years. And in order to not be redundant, I fully agree with Yvonne Mayer and Robert Montgomery in keeping things just the way they are. Thank you very much.
Hello, Commissioners. Tom Crosby. I am a county supervisor here in Cochise County. I would prefer not to be paired with Pima County because of ARS statutes having to do with counties over 500,000 and the various complications that causes for us. I'm against the proposal for a border legislative district. If that proposal happens to come up, I would definitely be against that. If someone cares to accuse me of thinking the United States is the best country and the U.S. Constitution is the best form of government, I'm guilty. That's what I think. So when I ponder the possibility of a redistricting for a border legislative district, if it comes up, this district would be the one most likely to be the most sympathetic with Mexico, the most likely to have a constituency favoring open borders. Globalist entities like the EPA refer to what I call the border as the transboundary community. In my opinion, the north side of a proposed border legislative district is what progressives might hope would be the de facto new U.S.-Mexico border. The cartel dope industry is estimated between 13.6 and 49 billion annually. I believe that the strategy of drug cartels is to infiltrate one county deep in the U.S., and if they can't get the whole county, they'd be very happy to settle for a border legislative district in the meantime. In the face of the failure of the Mexican government in its fundamental function to protect and defend its own citizens, and because of corruption, having reorganized its law enforcement 5 times since the 80s, and in the wake of the now over 120,000 narco war-related atrocities in Mexico, the cartels are now the ones offering peace and safety for Mexicans instead of the government. We should disregard racial demographics in redistricting because of the destructive, divisive consequences I've outlined today. Meanwhile, those of us that believe in liberty, don't be intimidated by accusations of racism. When I say we the people, I'm not excluding any of our citizens. But if you believe in liberty, you're one of us. Don't get tired. Don't give up. We the people, and we of Southeast Arizona. Thank you very much, Commissioners.
We will turn it back over to Nogales.
Thank you. Our next 3 speakers are Peter Lucas, Steve McEwen, and then Peter Benequista. Peter Lucas. is our first speaker. Then Steve McEwen.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and fellow members of the committee. I would like to begin by thanking the chairman for insisting on having these hearings available in our small rural communities. My name is Steve McEwen, and I'm a full-time resident of Rio Rico in Santa Cruz County. I currently reside in LD2 and CD3. Although I cannot boast about a long life in Arizona, my life in Montana, next to the Canadian border in a rural society, has more similarities than I have time to mention. Perhaps that's why I feel so comfortable in my new home 4 years. I was greeted warmly by my neighbors who were willing to assist us in settling in our new home in a Latino neighborhood. I find the citizens of Santa Cruz to hold God as their father, nature as their mother, family the most blessed of possessions, and hard work to be the essence of life to support all of the aforementioned values. These values, in my opinion, define Santa Cruz County as a conservative community. Living in a rural environment can be difficult, but it's never spurned. Instead, these difficulties are seen to be a path to building solid character and appreciation for their fellow man. Although these values may be found in urban society, their path is not ours, nor is a special appreciation of our surroundings. For a decade, Santa Cruz has been governed by urban values. Decisions have been made that seem to have ignored our principles and our way of life. The 20-mile limit for trade with Mexico was taken away, and with it, our prosperous border communities. The South 32 mine promises education, training, and great-paying jobs, but urban special interests has delayed the mine's development. Border policies have separated families and destroyed an already fragile economic environment in Santa Cruz County. We are desperately in need of representation in our state government that understands and addresses these important issues, not a one-size-fits-all policy. Please consider pairing Santa Cruz County with our neighbor, Cochise County, for consistent, fair, and common sense representation. My research in these hearings has brought attention to the fact that sitting politicians and candidates may be attempting to swear this committee to fit their desires. Proposition 106 passed by the citizens of 2000 did so because they did not want our elected officials to be determining the factor in our legislative congressional districts. I pray this committee turns a deaf ear to these politicians. They will have plenty of time to represent our wishes when the important process is finished. I also pray that God, you will have the wisdom to make these important decisions in the best interest of the citizens. Thank you for listening, and Godspeed.
Thank you. The next speaker is Peter Benakista, followed by Dick Barabak, followed by Doug Holler.
Howdy, Commissioners. I am Peter Benaquista. My wife, Carol, and I have lived in Tubac here in Santa Cruz County for 20 years. We are Tucson escapees. I currently serve on the board of directors for the Tubac Fire District and have served on the board of our homeowners association. Carol has served on the board for Tubac Center of the Arts and has worked at the golf resort and for 2 shops in the village. We are both retired. The Tubac Fire District notably comprises communities from Amado at the Pima County line to much of Nogales, a district that I think should remain intact from any view. Tubac is a very rural community, like most of the county. Our biggest concerns are border security and economic development. Issues shared largely in a large way with Cochise County, a natural connection for districting purposes.
Tubac itself is not an incorporated entity. There are no physical or otherwise boundaries, although it occupies a huge area in Santa Cruz County. I don't know what the commission did 10 years ago. I wasn't paying attention at that time. I do know that the last representative that actually represented Carol and me, our principles and our needs, was Jim Colby. I believe that the constitutional law and the 6 criteria that we have referred to, along with plain old common sense, are of utmost importance to the future of our community. Let's get it right this time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is, oh, I'm sorry. Sir, we have a question.
Yeah.
If you want to. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just need it. And then he needs to.
Thank you so much. You know, all of this information is remarkably helpful. You know, the commission just yesterday came from Yuma. There's a couple of issues that are coming up today that I'd like to just seek some clarification or additional information on. One is obviously this is a border town. It's obviously also a military town. How do these needs distinguish themselves from the Yuma situation that we just came from in terms of their border issues and their base needs? Is there anything unique that you would like us to understand as it distinguishes itself from that territory in our state?
Honestly, I'm not familiar with the situation in Yuma, but having lived in Tubac for 20 years, I know that the Border Patrol is up against it in a big way. Now, we have 2 major ports of entry in Nogales, actually 3 total, but 2 major ports of entry. And even the ports of entry have not been staffed to the level that was authorized by Congress 10 years ago, perhaps, okay? So again, overloaded, unable to, you know, with capacity to handle the problem. This county, Santa Cruz County, is, if you looked at it from a satellite, is a maze of routes for illegal aliens, drug smugglers, people traffickers, all of that we have to deal with. And the little checkpoint on the I-19, just north of Tubac, north of exit 40, in many ways is a joke, because the people know where to go, which way to go, and how to go without ever seeing that checkpoint. And that's a big problem.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dick Bauerbach, followed by Doug Holler, and then after that, we'll go back to Bisbee.
Madam Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Dick Bauerbach. I live in Santa Cruz County, just outside of Patagonia, and I'm here today to give you my comments about the area as a community of interest. Patagonia is a rural community. I am retired, moved here 26 years ago because of the mountains, the people, and the Mexican food. The people here are rural and are very open and easy to talk to. Our common interests include cattle ranching, farming, mining, tourism, and interaction with citizens from the Mexican state of Sonora. The mountains here are rich with ore, and Patagonia has a major mining activity just outside of town. I joined a rock club in Sierra Vista to explore the mountains of Santa Cruz and Cochise. Our interests are in common with activities in Cochise, Graham, and Greenlee counties. For example, Santa Cruz and Cochise both have ports of entry with Mexico at Nogales, Naco, and Agua Prieta. Both counties have fall festivals in October. Santa Cruz, Cochise, and Greenlee have active mines at Patagonia, Bisbee, and Morenci. The semi-annual wine festivals at Elgin on the Cochise-Santa Cruz border within sight of the 100,000-acre Brophy Ranch adjacent to Fort Huachuca always draws people by bus from Phoenix. Ranching, farming, mining, and tourism are not the primary interests of people in the urban areas of southern Arizona. By representing the rural aspects of Santa Cruz County, duly elected conservative legislators will better serve the interests of the communities of southeastern Arizona. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Doug Holler.
Good afternoon. My name is Doug Holler. I'm a fourth generation resident of Santa Cruz County area. I'm a retired ADOT area manager, retiring after 25 years of service with the rank of lieutenant. I'm a former precinct committeeman in this county, and I'm also a former political party executive officer in Santa Cruz County. I'm also a former member of the county library board. I'm retired now. And in case of our district here in Santa Cruz County, I think we're a very large Hispanic population, and I believe we're represented well. And I am concerned a bit with our friends to the east in Cochise County, and I mentioned this 10 years ago. But I know there's lots of Hispanics, Democrats, and independents in Cochise County. But yet when I look at the representatives and senators, I just see Republicans and no apparent Hispanic names in it. So with that being said, I want to thank you members. I know you're not compensated. You're doing this on a volunteer basis, and I appreciate that. And I want to thank you for helping to keep our democracy going. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll send it back to Bisbee.
I have two last speakers here in Bisbee, Tamara Birch and Gail Griffin.
Thank you, commissioners. Can you hear me? My name is Tamara Birch, and thank you for the community for opening this facility and all the community members from our county and districts. I live in Cochise County in Bisbee. My LD 14 is my Arizona State Legislative Group, and I'm also part of CD2. I'm a concerned citizen hoping to promote safe and healthy environments for our diverse rural population. My husband and I are both retired teachers. He was from Cochise College and Fort Huachuca teaching, and I'm a public school teacher from many districts in the county. We've spent most of our teaching careers here. Our son is one and only son that was born here in 1983, is also a teacher. I have lived in the area for over 40 years. I originally came here because I am a bird watcher. I have lived in Palominas, Bisbee, and Hereford. We have lived on the San Pedro River several times, even at the Laner Killsite Ranch. Bird watching, hiking, camping throughout the region has engaged my family from day one. I'm here because of water concerns. Redistricting until now has not addressed groundwater management. This not only affects our agriculture, but our private water usage, the wells, and it's an international border issue also. Our border communities are plagued. If you can remember, we had sewage running from the south up into the Bisbee not a few years back, and wells have been contaminated. This includes issues in Naco, Arizona, all the way to Nogales, which has had also sewage problems. Santa Cruz County should be included in our redistricting map, as I feel this would deal with our common concerns. Water issues in our district have moved from bad to worse. More and more wells are running dry. Highway fissures are expensive to fix and dangerous for our residents and for our tourists. Check with the ADOT on that one. Turkey Creek and Sulphur Springs Valley have endured dramatic water losses recently. A number of half-mile deep wells in the Douglas district have given the corporate agricultural projects room to deplete the remaining aquifer. There was an article on 8/3/21 in the High Country News entitled "A Mega Dairy is Transforming America's Aquifer and Farming Lifestyles." People have been in our area for generations. The folks who built this country are being forced to leave because of no water. Night skies are affected by the 24/7 farm lights. Bird populations have drastically reduced over the years. Okay, thank you so much for your concerns and listening.
Good evening. My name is Gail Griffin. I'm a resident of Cochise County. I've lived in Cochise County for 50 plus years. I currently live in Hereford, Arizona. As a full disclosure, I am a state representative for LD 14. I am here as an individual property owner and citizen of Cochise County, not in my political affiliation. I've been involved with local, state, and national issues for many, many years and continue to be involved in those issues. Our community of interest include the agricultural community of ranches, farms, wineries, and other natural resource issues like mining. All 4 of the current counties that are in LD 14 have mines. We have national defense operations, military, aerospace, a large retirement community, and law enforcement to provide us safe communities. Our district composes mostly of small business, which is and will continue to be most of the district. We do not have casinos or gambling in the district. Our law enforcement work hard to stop the illegal activity of drug and human smuggling, as well as other crimes that are committed along the border. Safe communities are what we want. Our ports of interest are different from other border communities. You mentioned Yuma, and Yuma has double fencing. In Cochise County, we have drug cartels that are taken up operational on our American soil. I am here speaking again for myself as a Cochise County resident. With all due respect, I request that the next series of meetings, we have one in Sierra Vista. Thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you.
We'll send it back over to Nogales.
Our next speaker is Kathleen Vandervoot, followed by Maureen Mahoney, followed by Carla Romero.
Hi, Commissioners. Thank you for traveling here. Appreciate that very much. My name is Kathleen Vandervoot, and I've lived in Santa Cruz County for 43 years. I've voted in every election, and I've always known who my representative is, and I paid attention to the districts for the last 43 years. I'd like to ask you to keep Santa Cruz County in one district. Don't split it into 2. I'm not sure if that's in the planning stages or not, but Santa Cruz County was split into 2 in the past, and I saw a lot of problems with that. I live in State Legislative District 2 and Congressional District 3, and I like living there. I like the response from our elected officials. When we were split in two, it severely diluted the needs and concerns of citizens. People in Santa Cruz County weren't able to show that they had a strong unified voice because they had to get the attention of representatives from two different legislative districts. At that time, I heard from some people that, oh, it's good, we get double the attention. But I observed it carefully, and we didn't. We didn't get double. We didn't even get our fair share. So that's why I feel so strongly that Santa Cruz County should remain in one legislative district. And I just want to talk for a moment about your question about Yuma. Yeah, that's a great question. I visited Yuma a few times on some quasi-business trips. And one difference I would say is it's so agricultural. They have so many growing fields. Santa Cruz County doesn't have agriculture except some small businesses. So, I mean, there's a huge disparity. That's a big difference. We do have a lot of other common interests, however. So that's an interesting thought that you've been presented with to think about. But we are mostly ranching in a lot of mountain areas, Santa Cruz River. We've got the international trade too. Because we're on the international border, we need frequent assistance from our elected officials. And, you know, maybe more so than larger Arizona cities, even though our population is smaller. Some of the problems that you've heard about, and I'd like to mention that we need help with transportation, public health, border crossing, and education because of our location and because we're such an important port of entry for Arizona and the whole United States. I also wanted to talk for just a moment about some people's suggestions that Santa Cruz County and Cochise County be joined. And I agree we have a lot of, is that my 3 minutes? Okay, similar interests, but it would really dilute the Democrat voice in Santa Cruz County. It would be lost compared to Cochise County. And I personally would be so sad to see that happen. Thank you for coming, and I would like Santa Cruz County to remain in the same districts.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maureen Mahoney, followed by Carla Romero, followed by Carmen Flores.
Can you hear me, Mike?
Good evening. My name is Maureen Mahoney. I have been a resident of Santa Cruz County for 12 years and own a property on the east side of Nogales, which is located in LD2. I moved to Nogales in order to escape the strife and bustle of Tucson, enjoy a small town community, and return to the rural roots in which I was raised. My house in Tucson, which I still own, is located just north of South Tucson, so I am very familiar with the area with which our county has been so incongruously conjoined. I have found great solace and joy in living the small town life and in the pastoral setting of Nogales, where I am an active member of Sacred Heart of Jesus Church, participating in the choir, prayer group, and numerous other activities. I find that Nogales is more compatible with the outlying towns and surrounding rural areas of Tubac, Rio Rico, Patagonia, Sonoita, and Greater Cochise County than with the urban, dense, hectic zone of South Tucson. Our concerns and needs are very different geographically, commercially, and demographically. Economically, we are commonly defined by mining, ranching, agricultural, small business, and produce industries, as well as border protection and security. Living along the border is a unique experience which lends a special color to our lives and also carries unique concerns. I absolutely don't want Nogales included in the same legislative district as Tucson, a city of 1 million people, located 70 miles away from us and with whom we share little in common. Our interests are only overshadowed and lost in the greater dimensions of such a locality. I don't know why a small county like ours would have been marked along such divergent lines in the past, and can only surmise that there were other interests at play. Such a division was highly unfair to the residents of Nogales and didn't allow us to be united as a bloc or allied with surrounding communities in common representation. please consider redistricting our county in a way that truly reflects the needs and concerns of our community in conjunction with the stated claims of the Arizona Constitution to respect communities of interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carla Romero, followed by Carmen Flores, followed by Marco Antonio Flores Sr.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. Santa Cruz County has been my home for over 30 years, and I have never felt more unrepresented than I do now. These past 10 years, my representatives have done absolutely nothing for my community. We are a rural community who enjoy spending our times in the outdoors, living a more Western and rural lifestyle. We are also a border community, which overwhelmingly aligns us more with Cochise County than Pima County. I've seen my county deteriorate instead of improving, from our economy to our safety. Our county has been affected economic-wise due to Tucson getting majority of the business and education benefits, while here at the border, we get very little. By pairing Santa Cruz County with Cochise County, it will help develop a more rural economic and educational plan, which in return will help our community greatly and turn our economic situation around. In 2020, Santa Cruz County had the highest poverty level in Arizona. Our unemployment rate is near 13%. That's well above the national and state average. There is also a huge problem in the southern border with child sex trafficking that our representatives don't talk about. And that child sex trafficking goes directly to Tucson and it spreads throughout the United States. So I can't recall a time when those who are supposedly representing us came to our community to talk to us and get our feedback, unless it's an election year, then they'll come down. Instead, they feel so confident that they will be reelected that they do not even pay attention to us. That has to change, and it is your constitutional obligation to make sure that we are being represented and not just taking advantage of for political power. Thank you.
Thank you for this feedback. If you have particular boundaries or populations or districts that you feel if you aligned with would better represent your needs, please make sure you submit that data to us, or if that's information you'd like to share with us now, we'd very much like to know.
In regards why I think we should be with Cochise County, or?
The boundaries. You're saying that you're not being represented, and so
Right.
if there are just specific districts or data that you'd like us to consider that you feel best represent your constituency, we just want to, we want to be able to best record that data. And that's all. Thank you.
I just think all of Santa Cruz County, it should not be divided. I think we should be paired with Cochise County. Douglas and Nogales are very similar when it comes to our produce industry. We rely heavily on it. And I just don't think that we're being paid attention to in the last 10 years. So I could get data for you if you like, and I could email it to you, or I could try to find out on my phone and bring it back.
We care. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
this, and we'll look into it very much. Thank you.
The next speaker is Carmen Flores, followed by Marco Antonio Flores Sr., followed by Julie Groter.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Carmen Valencia Flores. I believe the representation we currently have is inadequate, not because of inability, but because they simply are not part of this community. I live in Nogales. Santa Cruz County has been my home for 67 years. I come from generations of committed Santa Cruz residents that have worked to improve our rural border community. Because of non-existent opportunities to further our education at the time, it's changed now a little bit, but it's changed with great effort. We left our rural community. Some in my family returned to our small border community to establish businesses creating success, both personal and for their workforce. Others have been committed workers who have labored side by side with our communities of employment for decades. I am the granddaughter of a man passionate about his trade and dedicated to developing the power grid in rural Santa Cruz County, starting in 1915. 22 years later, still driven by that vision of improving his community, he laid down his life restoring the power on Patagonia Highway. In 1937, it was in great news. There was nothing much to be said of I-19. Let's see, I scratched a bunch of things out that I thought I was going to say, but I'm not going to anymore. It was then that with great pride, he carved out, it was with great pride that he carved out the electrical services to this very border and part of Nogales, Sonora in Mexico. There was a time when the first blocks in Nogales, Sonora would light up through the power provided from the US. It was this pride that I learned for my community, which brings me here today. My neighborhood includes the border and the start of the new, well-known I-19 corridor. The fence has been a backyard reality all my life, with all its charm and its not so many charms too. Not a photo op as it is for others. It is my home. I doubt that my current representation has the slightest idea as to what it is to have both I-19 and the international border dictate what your day or your night will be like. We require highly specialized knowledge to be supported. This is a powerful rural border community. We're a true asset. Residents of Santa Cruz County are miners, agriculturists, ranchers, international businessmen, and frontline defenders of this country's sovereignty. Residents are rooted in gratitude to this country who believe in what Santa Cruz County has to offer, and some of us have signed our name to it with blood. It's time we have the representation that promotes and supports, matches our sacrifices. The current LD2 has Tucson imposing policy in our rural communities, and they are not appropriate decisions. Thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
The next speaker is Marco Antonio Flores Sr., followed by Julie Grother, followed by Frederick Milner.
You asked for some distinction, difference on Yuma, the area and where we live in. I jotted something down here, but is that going to take away from my 3 minutes?
I'll give you 30 extra seconds.
Thank you. All right, really quickly then, Yuma. Yuma is not on the border, Nogales is, Naco is, and so is Douglas. Yuma is 7 miles north. Yuma is 2 hours and 40 minutes away from San Diego, and so it's 2 miles and 40 minutes away from Phoenix. Where do you think they're going to go for their commerce and entertainment? We are not. No, we're 65 miles away to Tucson and 3 hours, 2.5 miles to Phoenix. Yuma is both military and it's also a slightly border town. Nogales is military, Sierra Vista is military, but it's not border town. And Nogales is border town, smack right on the border. Thank you.
3 minutes now.
Santa Cruz County and its 2 incisions. My name is Marco Antonio Flores Sr. I am a healthy 71 years of wisdom and common sense. Retired here in my hometown of Nogales, Arizona. 2 children, a proud son as a military Black Hawk pilot, and my lovely and successful New York City daughter who has credited to visiting 36 countries. I am proud to say that I was born and raised in this border town, a child product of 2 cities imbued proudly in a dual heritage. Here is a culture and a history so character-rich that even the incision of the international line can never uproot its sacred legacy. the interconnectivity that is defined in the commonality of language, culture, and faith-related values. Moreover, there is a sacred partnership that we call family. This truism can also be said of boundaries between counties, where the demographics are the same uniquely woven tapestries. These very characteristics serve to garner a meritorious distinction, melding 4 counties of its components to become one district that is stronger and more distinctive than its current state, thus justifiably emboldened to those who would think fit to condescend. In the case made for Santa Cruz County, neighboring rural counties of Cochise, Graham, and Grindley have more in common than the current lines of demarcation with Pima. This other incision has turned into a scar that separates us to the extent that our unique existence is snobbishly and reluctantly accepted as the atypical adopted child, whose honor and pride is subdued and the voting power suppressed. I am not a Mexican American. I am an American. Proud of my heritage, yes, but prouder still to be assimilated into the most generous and freedom-loving country in the world. Likewise, assimilation should be in the interest of a well-balanced counties that reflect the purity in our Constitution and the halls of patriotism.
Followed by Frederick Milner, followed by Catherine Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and the members of the committee. My name is Julie Grother, and we bought a home in Tubac in 2013. I'm from LD2, CD3. My husband Tim and I moved here from rural Colorado and live in Tubac full time. We picked Tubac because of its similar value, because of its similar size, small village, natural beauty, and the opportunity to be around rural people who share similar values. I board my horse at a local ranch close by and enjoy trail riding and spending time down at the ranch with other folks that love horses. My daughter and I enjoy trail riding on the Anza Trail and on the ranch. As more people bring their horses, this ranch is becoming a community of people that enjoy the outdoors and equestrian activities. We enjoy our rural setting, walking our dogs in our friendly neighborhood, golf resort, and on the Anza Trail. We have met others in Tubac who share common values such as pro-family, pro-conservative, and pro-small business. We also know ranchers close by and people with small farms. Our abundant wildlife and beautiful setting attracts people to visit our area. We also have different issues here, such as our southern border, mining, and preservation of our natural environment. The village of Tubac is a small community of friendly folks who also enjoy the small town atmosphere with a love of art, nature, history, gardening, and caring for the environment. All want to conserve this small town feel and preserve our beautiful ecosystems. Our surrounding small towns close by are also places that we love to visit. After 4 years of being Director of Religious Ed at St. Anne's Parish, I have come to know the families, the local families that reside here. They are pro-family and make family members, old and young, a priority. Santa Cruz is different than the people who reside in urban areas. We have different needs, interests, values. We have more common interests and values with residents who live in rural settings similar to our small town. Redistricting with similar counties, co-chiefs, will better represent the needs of the people in Santa Cruz and our border concerns, and the border concerns we cannot ignore. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Frederick Milner, followed by Catherine Townsend, followed by Matt Pirelli.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, committee. Thank you for coming. My name is Fred Milner. My amazing wife and I live in downtown Nogales in a home built by my ancestors in 1888. 4 of our 5 daughters have graduated from Nogales High School, while our youngest is in the 7th grade. We still run the family ranch, and I'm also a music teacher at an elementary school locally. I lead praise and worship music at First Baptist Church of Nogales, and I'm chairman of Child Evangelism Fellowship of Santa Cruz County. My oldest daughter and I are in a band called Toe the Line with other Nogales area musicians. We're in the recording studio working on our first album. The community of interest I would like to address is that of small town border communities. Small towns in southern Arizona have a unique makeup, culture, and history. Proximity to the Mexican border and culture has fostered strong family ties and roots such as my own. These small border communities hold deep religious and family values that hold us together and influence our worldview. Although there is important economic activity through produce, trucking, brokerages, mining, agriculture, ranching, and other international activity, these southern Arizona communities of Santa Cruz County and Cochise counties still have that small town feel. We don't have the bells and whistles of the big city, yet what draws and keeps many in is the sense of family, stability, and vision. Preserving these hometown border values built around family, church, children, location, and culture are in everyone's best interest. So as you think about where to draw the lines, I urge you to bolster the strong voice of these small border communities of interest. Please reunite us as one block of citizens which hold to very similar rural values. Please do not arbitrarily or for some political agenda include us with Tucson, which has interests that are not in line with our southern Arizona border communities. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Catherine Townsend, followed by Matt Pirelli, followed by Tim Grother.
Good evening. It's nice to see you again. The last time I saw you was via Zoom when you guys were interviewing for the commission. I'm a member of the Commission on Appellate Court Appointments. And I want to start by saying thank you. I think more than anybody except Pliny here, who is another member of the commission, we understand what it took to get to where you are, how thankless the job is, and how invasive the process of becoming a member of the Independent Redistricting Commission is. And I just want to say thank you, and also that I think you're doing a fantastic job. So I think that tonight you've heard a lot of really interesting things from articulate people who have some passionate ideas about what needs to happen. And I would encourage you to look at what people are saying through the frame of how political decisions impact those communities, because I think that that's the theme that we're hearing over and over again. And so I want to answer the question that you asked about Yuma and explain what I mean. So my husband and I own 15 acres in St. David, which is a beautiful census designated area that has about 2,000 people living there. And we do a lot of things. We raise critters and crops. And one of the things that my husband does is aquaponics, which is a way of raising fish and, okay, you're familiar with it, which is a way of raising fish and lettuce or other plants together, but primarily lettuce. So one of the reasons that aquaponics isn't bigger in Arizona and why it's hard to bring aquaponics grown produce to market is because of the lettuce lobby. So what we need in our small community is representatives who understand that in a small holding, what you can grow effectively using water responsibly is different than what huge industrial agricultural growers are doing by pulling water out of the Colorado River. Our interests are different because what we need in order for us to be responsible on the farm that we're trying to develop using permaculture methods is different than what the industrial agricultural growers are doing in Yuma. And I think that if you just focus on, if we're looking at these groups and what they need from their representatives, then the lines that you draw will make sure that people feel like they have representation on the other end. And I also think that if you do it that way, you have the advantage of it's naturally compact. And so those are my thoughts on this, but I do have one request, and that is that if from a demographic standpoint for numbers, you have to include Tucson with where we are in Cochise County, could you please make sure that it's like Vail and Rita Ranch and people who are on the outskirts, because they have closer interests than people who live in Midtown Tucson would. Thank you.
If there is new, conceptual information for us to be able to digest information as it relates to water, these kinds of things that naturally, carve out territories, make sure that the commission receives this empirical data. We're the mapping folks, the commissioners, we're taking notes. It's an enormous amount of information that we're synthesizing. And so if you're concerned that there's particular pieces of information that might get lost, just as a partner, we're asking that you submit it.
Okay.
So that we can make sure that we come back and incorporate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker is Matt Perilli, followed by Tim Grother, followed by Ray Illy.
Good evening. My name is Matt Perilli. I live in Sonoyta. I have lived there for 21 years. I first set foot there in 1976 and fell in love with it. Finally was able to make a connection. I think your choice of topic for this interface, this meeting, is a good one, community interest. Because in the 2021 redistricting, that did not happen. In 2020, we the residents, citizens of Sonoyta Elgin, were encompassed in CD8 and LD 30 at that time. The LD would now be 14. The CD would be 2. There is a vast sociological and economic difference between the western part of Santa Cruz County and the eastern part. The west side of the county is much more urban. It's heavily ensconced in and dependent on produce transshipment, which they do very well. The west side, the east side of the county, on the other hand, is very rural. I mean, its mainstays are ranching, vineyards, people having little hobby farms and hobby horse activity, and it's small. There are only 1,500 registered voters in the Sonoyta Elgin area. One of the other dissimilarities is, just for common shopping, for groceries and what have you, the drive from Sonoyta to Sierra Vista is 30 miles. The drive from Sonoyta to Nogales to shop is 40 miles. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I mean, that's where people, for the most part, go. We feel that we have much more in common with CD2 and LD14 because of some of the things I mentioned. Now, you're gonna love me because I put together some thoughts, some maps, and a recommendation for moving the LD14 and CD2 boundary a little bit to the east, west, sorry.
Okay, Tim Brooker is our next speaker. Can I just remind everybody, make sure you're talking into both mics. One is for amplification, so the one I'm speaking in right now is amplifying. The other one is going out to all of our viewers at Bisbee and then anybody on WebEx too. So the other mic up here, it's really important that you speak into it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tim Grother. I live in Tubac, and first of all, thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners, for allowing these meetings to take place and give people the opportunity to share their thoughts. I do that. As my wife noted, we moved here in 2013 from a rural county in Colorado, and so we came here to Santa Cruz because we liked the rural communities. And I'm learning a lot tonight from my neighbors. I don't know nearly as much about Santa Cruz County as many of the folks in this room that have spoken. And it's very interesting to me. One of the things I did want to make a note of that I noticed, when you look at the existing map of the legislative districts in Arizona, it doesn't seem to be grid-like for LD2. It seems to be more like something that was put together to make something happen. That's just a thought. And it makes sense to me that Santa Cruz County be associated more with the counties to the east of us. I agree that Santa Cruz County should be kept whole. I'm kept my comments a little bit shorter here than I had intended so I've kind of rewritten them. But I'm going to submit one of these online, the survey, so that I can be more complete with my comments. But I don't want to be redundant, and in the interest of time, I just wanted to keep it short and sweet. That's my comment.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ray Illy, followed by Bracker, followed by Carlos Pena.
Thank you. Members of the Arizona IRC, I'm Ray Ely. I live in rural, unincorporated Pima County on a private well. I own a ranch property in rural Cochise County. I'm a retired aerospace worker. I have connections to the military and law enforcement and politics. I would like to begin by recognizing the work so far of those of you on the current IRC board, especially Chairwoman Dr. Erica Newberg. You've been running the IRC fairly. I believe you care about fair play. You have allowed these public hearings to take place. Thank you. In contrast, the IRC of 2010 was unfair, showing partisan bias, ignoring communities of interest, and failing to meet the 5 legal requirements of districting, thereby defaulting to competitive districts that have underrepresented many communities. The LD2 situation, mixing Nogales and South Tucson with rural Pima and Santa Cruz together with Green Valley and Sahuarita, is a clear example, one of many. I hope this time the IRC will assure districts comply with all 5 criteria in the law, thereby making so-called competitive districts not found. My interests support communities with a rural suburban lifestyle, personal responsibility, individual rights, private property rights, water rights, mining, agriculture, ranching, wine production, public safety and law enforcement, religious faith, the military, aerospace and defense industry, retirement communities, hunting, fishing, and outdoor activities. These communities are found in most areas outside the city of Tucson and Pima County, especially unincorporated land on private or community wells, plus most of the counties of Cochise, Graham, Greenlee, and Santa Cruz County east of the mountains or I-19 corridor, including the communities of Green Valley, Sahuarita, Vail, Corona de Tucson, Rita Ranch, Dragoon, Morenci, Safford, San Simon, the Agricultural Valley from Wilcox to McNeil, Duncan, Sonoyta, Elgin, Patagonia, Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, Fort Huachuca, Sierra Vista, Raytheon, Tucson, and surrounding communities, and Saddlebrook and Quail Creek. I urge you to fashion districts that keep these communities together and represented. Please keep Cochise County together. It is a unique, ruggedly individualistic, free-thinking, rural western county that must not be split. Please comply with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and place Nogales and the I-19 corridor of Santa Cruz County in their own special protected districts with similar interests. None of the new CD2 should be in the city of Tucson at all. The city should confine its influence to one CD of its own. Likewise, LDs in or near the city of Tucson should be urban or suburban, or either urban or suburban in character, as not mixed as possible. Thank you for your hard work. God bless it. I wish you all every success under difficult circumstances. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bracker, Carlos Pena, and then Maria Osena.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Bruce Bracker. I am a county supervisor representing District 3 in Santa Cruz County. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you for your service to the state in this endeavor. It is a thankless job, and so kudos to you for stepping up to the plate to do it. I have a couple of points that I think that are really critical to make. One, I think it's very important to keep Santa Cruz County whole in a congressional district. I think it is very important that Arizona have minimum 2 congressional districts that are touching the border. Currently, we have a 3rd district with Congressman Gosar's district representing Yuma, and these are very important voices when we go to our delegation to advocate for the needs of our community. So this is very important. Also, when we're talking about legislative districts in our state legislative districts, again, keep Santa Cruz County whole. These are the people that we work with on a daily basis for the needs of our community. So I thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for coming to Santa Cruz County to listen to us.
Thank you. The next speaker is Carlos Pena, followed by Maria Osena, followed by Damian Kennedy.
I'm Carlos Pena and Maria Osena, and we're not here to talk.
Okay. Carlos Pena.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
No, thank you. Our next speaker is Damian Kennedy, followed by Mark Larkin.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for making the long trip down here. It is greatly appreciated in these rural communities. My name is Damian Kennedy. I live in the Lakewood Amato area, which is just north of the Santa Cruz-Pima County line. I've lived there for 12 years, sharing my community as president of my local school PTO. I've been a scoutmaster and a legislative chairman. I live in a small community, a little over 500 citizens, and the demographics are mixed generously. We live in a community that has one small market, one large chain store, which just came in. We are down to one restaurant due to flooding, due to lack of representation, and a school district that is tied to a much larger school district that ignores the needs of my small community because we're too far away to matter. My community is nestled between a large unincorporated town in Green Valley and a county line that is just too far away from Tucson, too far away from Nogales. For the main metropolitan areas to matter what the needs of the community are. Our roads haven't been redone since the 70s when the community was built. Largely, we are a speed bump on your way to Mexico or to Tucson, depending on which way that you're headed. No one notices the community, and no one is listening to the community in general. I am here today in the hopes that my community will not be tossed into a district as an afterthought and forgotten for the next 10 years like it has been for the last 10. We would like to have a voice and be heard like any other part of southern Arizona that gets bundled with other counties that are much larger than they are, and their voices being drowned out also because they are too far away to really matter. Our ruralness in the state gives us different values, more than the urban areas of the state. Areas southern Arizona usually gets lumped into, Tucson and such. This rural attitude has given us great conservative values, though. A standard of principles that needs to be reflected legislatively. Our voice disappeared 10 years ago, and this is our chance to correct that mistake and bring our valued voice, principles, and strong conservative values together to be the anchor to this state that everyone outside of the southern Arizona agrees economically that we are here at the border with our produce coming across the line and everything like that. With that, I thank you very much for listening to me, and thank you for coming down.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mark Larkin, followed by Marcelina Verona Jr., followed by Douglas Cook.
Yes, good evening to the commission. I'm very happy that you are taking time to come down here and listen to us down here in Nogales. My name is Mark Larkin. I've been I'm a native Arizonan. I've been a resident of Santa Cruz County since about 1992, when I came down here and started farming and ranching in this area, something I'd grown up with and that I continue to do here in Santa Cruz County. Right now, as I get older, find out that work is a little tougher. So now I'm an attorney here in Nogales, and I represent a lot of agricultural interests in land use and water rights, particularly. In the mid-1980s, we split out our active management area here, which manages groundwater here in the area. We split away from the Tucson active management area. That was a terrific, a terrific move for us down here because of the difference, the hydrological and agricultural differences between us in this county and the more urban demands in Pima County. That difference has persisted throughout the decades since then, and the attaching of us, like we did 10 years ago, to Pima County and to that part of Pima County just frankly made Santa Cruz County kind of a sideshow. I mean, we were just sort of parked aside, and you know, our interests were just completely subsumed by the interests of the more urban areas north of us. I think it is a much better idea to couple these counties that are rural or agricultural, have a lot of the same economic base, and are made up, instead of large urban areas, are made up by smaller cities in a more rural type of area. It just makes sense to couple those kinds of communities together as a district. I think the people of those communities would be far better served by that than being kind of just shunted aside by the urban interests. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Marcelino Verona Jr., followed by Douglas Cook, followed by Irene Ellersek.
Thank you. Before, I'd just like to make a comment before I get started. It would help a lot if I could see the other two commissioners on the screen so that I know how they're reacting to the presentations and that. Oh, they're on the bottom. Well, I think I don't need to really see Bisbee. I would like to see how they're acting, because if I'm sitting in the back, I don't see them at the bottom. So it would be very helpful if you would enlarge them. Well, Welcome. I couldn't see you in the back of the room there. Marcelino Varona, I am a resident of Santa Cruz County for 70 years. And I do want to go over just a couple of bullet points here. Originally, people have mentioned here that they want to go ahead and be a part of Cochise County. The railroad tracks right here, when you leave here, that was a dividing point. That was one district on the other side that was connected to Cochise County. On this side, where you are presently, that was another district that went up the I-19 corridor. I will just emphatically suggest that the good thing about being with Cochise County is Gail Griffin. She's a wonderful representative. The bad part of what we are right now, so you recognize it, is that we don't elect very many Republicans. And in the state legislature, that does cause us a problem of our voice being heard. Because I've been up there at the state legislature. And when we had John Ackerley represent us, we got a lot of things done. When he was defeated, and we have 3 Democratic representatives, it does hurt us. Because we are drowned out by the opposite. And I am, since 1972, a registered Republican. I also like to make a point on the border issues. The only thing that Nogales, San Luis, and Douglas have in common right now is all 3 entities of government have no city manager. That's all that we have in common with. If you look at Douglas right now, they just lost their big supermarket there, Food City. They're dwindling economically. So we have to make sure that we have a sound economic base here. I will tell you this because I am also the former mayor and a city councilman for the city of Nogales. I presently sit on the Nogales Unified School District Governing Board and on the Santa Cruz County Provisional Community College Governing Board. The Provisional Community College, say it real fast, is just, we are not an accredited community college. We have to have another community college that comes in to give the accredited courses. We were with Cochise College at one time. They rejected us. So we were on the verge of shutting down our community college when Chancellor Lambert came in and offered us from Pima Community College to come in and seek to survive our community college offerings. So now we can continue to offer an Associate of Arts degree through Pima Community College and a bachelor's degree through the University of Arizona. So we do have something in common with Pima County. I am very supportive of the I-19 corridor. I think it's important. When you leave this evening, and if you're going back to your hometowns through I-19, when you're going out on Mariposa Road, look at that big freeway structure that costs millions of dollars, that the city of Nogales and Santa Cruz County had to contribute millions of dollars for. What is it for, that highway? It is for an efficiency of produce industry.
Thank you, that's time.
Thank you, ma'am. Can I have an additional 30 seconds? So I want you to look at that as you go out, because that is a big factor on our employment here. So to me, keeping Santa Cruz County the way it is, joining us with people of South Tucson and that area, which are Hispanic and Catholic.
Thank you. Next speaker is Douglas Cook, followed by Irene Ellersek, followed by Billy Purd.
Hello, my name is Douglas James Cook. I have lived in southern Arizona for 21 years. Legislative District 2 should be Santa Cruz County, Graham County, and Cochise County, and definitely do not split Santa Cruz County up. Make it whole. I lived in Tucson, and after a couple years, I moved to Rio Rico, Santa Cruz County. My law enforcement background has given me strong ties to most of the communities from South Tucson to Nogales. It is clear to me that the needs of metropolitan communities like Tucson are completely different from the needs of citizens living in rural, small towns, border towns, and ranches. It is wrong to have a representative in Congress speaking for such different groups of citizens. The ranching community desperately needs representatives that understand their needs. Additionally, my experience in Rio Rico and Nogales is that the citizens here do daily business across the border and in most cases are binational with families, members living in Mexico. We need representation that understands binational issues. In addition to that, in addition to my law enforcement background, I'm also a retired Navy chief from the military intelligence community. For 3 years, I was president of the retired military intelligence organization known as Arizona ASAA. Cochise County is largely, if not mostly, retired military intelligence, as Fort Huachuca is the largest intelligence bases in the country. I have close ties to these citizens, and they would tell you that the representative from Tucson has no clue what they need. Please redraw the district lines so Santa Cruz County, whole, not split up, Graham County and Cochise County are in one district together and not subordinated to Pima County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Irene Ellersek, followed by Billy Peard, followed by Jaime Chamberlain.
Thank you for letting me speak about redistricting. I believe I have a deep insight into the subject. I have lived in Arizona since 1978 and in Rio Rico since about 20 years. Thank you. And I have a real estate broker's license in Arizona for over 30 years. I have brokered sales across Arizona. But what I would like to speak about is my experience of subdividing my personal land in the metropolitan area of Tucson and the ranch lands of northeastern Arizona. A few examples as how I experienced the difference between the metropolitan and the farm, ranching, mining citizens of Arizona. When I was before the Board of Supervisors in Tucson, the supervisors were interested in the pollution of my property from the Air Force plane graveyard, even though my land was 5 miles from the graveyard. On another piece of land that was close to downtown Tucson, the supervisors were interested how I was going to preserve the javelina trails used in their daily pursuit of food. Now I can tell you, the northern Arizona citizens are not interested in the graveyard pollution, and they would find it amusing to preserve a trail for a javelina. Northeastern Arizona were interested how my CNRs would preserve the open range for their livestock and how many acres of open range I need, or they need, for cow and a calf. Roads in the subdivision were secondary in the subdivision, just don't impede their livelihood. In one subdivision in Tucson, I needed to build a bridge to accommodate rain runoff from a mountain. In northeastern Arizona, bridges are not built to handle rain. It's open range. Once I hired an attorney from Tucson to help with my project in northeastern Arizona. Well, that was an expensive experience. A business employs attorneys, title companies, architects in metropolitan areas, or if you're an urban area, you employ the architect, the attorney, and the title company from that area. I have many examples why Santa Cruz has more in common with Cochise and Graham County than the metropolitan area of Pima County. Just being a woman, I'm interested in clothes. And you go to northeastern Arizona wearing cowboy boots and a Stetson hat and the jeans. But in the metropolitan area of Tucson, you wear high heels and jewelry. So it's just totally different as far as living in the two different areas. So in my opinion, the metropolitan representative should not be representing rural areas, and the rural area should not be representing metropolitan areas in the state legislature. Let the inhabitants of each area have a voice in their government. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Jaime Chamberlain.
Good evening, everyone. Commissioners, thank you all for being here. Thank you for coming to Santa Cruz County and to Nogales. I am Jaime Chamberlain, and I am a lifelong resident of Nogales, Arizona. I am also the current chairman of the Greater Nogales Santa Cruz County Port Authority. I'm on the Arizona-Mexico Commission Executive Committee, and I'm also the past chairman of the Fresh Produce Association of the Americas. I was also on the commission for appellate court appointments, which screened you all to go to the governor's office, along with Catherine Townsend from Southeast Arizona. I really appreciate everyone's point of view as far as what they see is and what they want and as the districts are being redrawn. I want you to know that in Nogales, and I talk about this all the time, we are a community that is very small. There's about 22,000 people in this community, about a little over 40,000 people in our community, in our county, but we are extremely important to the viability and the economic viability, not only to our state, but also to our country. We handle anywhere between $4.5 and $5 billion worth of Mexican fruits and vegetables that get to your table here in the United States and to Canada and Asia and Europe as well, that cross through this community. My family's been doing it for about 50 years, and we've been doing it in Nogales, Arizona for over a century. We also cross about $26 billion worth of maquiladora products that get to your homes. Probably some of your laptops that you're using right now were probably made, some of the components were probably made in Nogales, Sonora right now. We are an extremely important community. We have very much similar issues to some of the other border communities that have expressed their opinions here. And sometimes we have some very different issues that come up. But almost everything that we have that comes up as far as an issue for this community is a federal issue, whether it's the IOI and the International Outflow Interceptors, or whether it's our port of entries and the lack of infrastructure that we have. Almost every single issue that we have is a federal issue. So this job that you have, the 5 of you on the camera as well, is extremely important to all of us. It is something that we take very, very seriously. You heard all the different opinions that we have. I just want you to know that, and people have said it many, many times over and over, we need to get it right, not only for this community now, but for the viability of our communities in the future. So I appreciate your work. I respect your work. I've known a little bit about everyone who applied for the job to do this. And I'll tell you what, it was very, very difficult to choose you all. But I think that we trust in your wisdom. Thank you very much.
So before you go, I mean, this is your fault.
It is?
And so with that, I think we could ask a couple of follow-up questions.
Sure.
First of all, if you could just expand a little bit on the I-19 corridor, and along with that, the link between Douglas and Nogales border ports, just so we can kind of have a schema through which we can digest this information.
So one of the biggest issues that we have in Arizona is our competitive nature that we have with other border states. So we're consistently competing with Texas, New Mexico, and California. So in the past, we had always fought for federal dollars for our ports of entry on more of a separate basis. Right now, we are not doing that. We are actually supporting each other in the needs of San Luis Phase 1, which already has about $154 million for their first port of entry, and they're seeking another $140 million for their Phase 2. We are also supporting Douglas in their 2 border port solution. which is they want a commercial port 5 miles away from their existing port, and they want to remodel their existing port as just for commercial and for pedestrian traffic. We are also actively seeking monies for the remodel and redesign of the DeConcini Port of Entry here in Nogales, Arizona, which actually sits on the international boundary line and is extremely dangerous for the customs agents that work on that border. All new modern ports of entry have buffer zones of hundreds of yards for security reasons and also for the new technology that's coming out. So we are actively seeking to push our DeConcini Port of Entry, which sits in our downtown community here, more toward the inside of Nogales. So that's the connection that we have together. Those ports of entry are extremely important. And the figures that I gave you were only for Nogales and Mariposa.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
And Eric asked also about the I-19 corridor.
The I-19 corridor is extremely important for us. It is the largest corridor that we have for the state of Arizona, going through the state of Arizona for the majority and almost all of our products that come through here. We are actively looking for different solutions to efficiently get our products to different parts of the United States. Mexico just recently invested $1.8 billion in the remodel of Mexico City to the Nogales Port of Entry. And in Arizona, many people are looking for an active way to get to Calgary. We used to call it the Canamex Highway, which is Mexico 15, I-19, to probably, hopefully, a new highway in I-11 coming out of Tucson and going straight up to Calgary is our hope for that. So I-19 is extremely important. The corridor, the economic viability of that corridor is extremely important.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, thank you.
On behalf of myself and my fellow commissioners, I really want to thank you for the testimony today. It's really important, and we really are trying to listen. And the issues that are brought up are difficult to deal with. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of some of the challenges we face, in the 2011 redistricting, each congressional district needed to have about 710,000 people. Given the population growth in the state, each congressional district by law will now be, based when we get the final census, we'll know, but it's going to be roughly 800,000 people. So any congressional district we draw, we've got to find 90,000 more people in that district than what it was 10 years ago. Similarly, on the legislative districts, in 2010, each district had plus or minus 210,000 people. And based on the estimated population growth, we're going to need to have about 240,000 people in a legislative district. So when we're looking at communities of interest, we're looking at how do we combine communities of interest to hit those numbers. So that just so you'll understand that. And as you've seen today from the earlier presentation on our website, we do have easy to use tools for learning about and sharing information about your community of interest. And those websites will load the new census data as soon as we get it. So by the 1st of September, you'll be able to look and play with and create your own maps and create your own communities of interest based on that census data and send them to us. And we encourage you to do that so that we can fully understand the input that you'd like to give to us. And that way we won't be relying purely on our own interpretation of what you've said today, but we'll be able to see exactly what you're looking at if you do that. This will ensure we correctly understand the definition of your community, and we encourage you to encourage your friends and neighbors to share their thoughts also. Anyone can go online anytime between now and when we have final maps. And there's no requirement to attend one of these hearings. You can go online and give us your input through that website. So again, I particularly encourage you to take advantage of that. We really appreciate you being here tonight. We appreciate the comments that we've heard, and we thank you very much. And with that, we adjourn the meeting.